So I am just beyond delighted to introduce to you our next speaker. Josh Planos is the Vice President of Communications and Public Relations for the Better Business Bureau and a freelance writer for publications including the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. He is a frequent contributor to CNN Philippines and was recognized among Midland's Business Journal's 40 under 40 class in 2022. It's pretty cool, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay, we know your age now. And you know what? Aging is wonderful. All right. Josh serves as the spokesperson of the Better Business Bureau's International Investigations Initiative and oversees and executes all external and internal communication efforts. Let's give a big welcome to Josh.
Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you taking time to be here. I want to thank Nebraska DHHS for the opportunity to speak today, and all the presenters for sharing their time, their expertise, to the sponsors, and to those of you who are attending in person and virtually. I believe that today's elder justice training will only benefit our communities if we leave here with something actionable, if the conversation that we have today continues tomorrow, and I think it will. But I thank you again for your time. My name is Josh. I work for the BBB, which to some is recognized, well, by this. So you're upset with a company, you need someone to vent to. I believe that is a physical landline. Others will recognize the BBB by community programming efforts like shred events or cybersecurity seminars, or in the case of today, consumer protection best practices. Some recognize BBB by just this color, or this logo, or this logo, or that logo, this color, or that color, but my goal isn't for you to leave here thinking about any of those things. It's for you to think about a single word. Seems simple enough, right? We trust things all the time. I trust that when I go to bed, that the next morning will come. I trust that my money will be in my bank account when this presentation is over. At least I sure hope so. I trust that the sunny forecast on my weather app will be precisely right every single time. That does not always happen, but I trust that it will. Trust to me is really one of the more essential, fascinating words we have, right? We all feel it from time to time. Occasionally we can identify it. These folks look trustworthy. But how many of us experience it when we go online? Or when we get a text from someone we don't know? Or when we turn on the TV? How often do we trust what we are being presented with? Once a day? A week? A month? Ever? Ever is probably a bit extreme. Do you remember these photos from just now? Does anything look strange about them? These are not real people. They're not. You ever seen a phone that looks like that? Nope. These images were built using an artificial intelligence plugin. So you type out a string of text and poof, you've got photos. This picture went viral a few months ago, which shows the Pope wearing a designer jacket. It's not real. And yet it was viewed millions of times around the globe. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Trust. I ask myself every day, how can I trust what I'm being presented with? And by extension, how can I trust that someone is there to actually help me? What I would posit today is that trust is one of the most precious and limited commodities we have. We simultaneously have too much and too little. And increasingly I hear from consumers and business owners who are running out of it. And I have a hard time convincing them that they can find trust in 2023. Let's quickly reset that depressing energy with a photo of puppies taking a bath. Pretty cute, right? All right, back to reality. Do you know how many fake reviews Amazon spotted last year?
Too many.
200 million. Ugh. We can't even research products and services without being fed inaccurate information. And understandably, that leads many consumers to pay for things they otherwise wouldn't, to pay for things that don't exist. Let's chew on this number, $8.8 billion. That is the amount of money that was lost to scams and fraud in 2022, according to the FTC. More than any year in human history. That's up 30% from 2021. So we're going the wrong direction. It's a pretty big number. It's also a mostly incomplete one, because depending on where you look, experts will tell you that 85% of fraud in this country goes unreported. $8.8 billion, conservatively. That's more dollars than there are people on the planet. Everyone here knows someone impacted by fraud and by scams. Everyone. They probably just haven't told you. I know a few people, some of whom I love, and I think about them when I do my job. And I think it's tragic that this is an environment that we accept to some degree. An environment where many of us cannot trust one another. Puppy time. Or if that isn't your cup of tea, kitty time. I want to tell you a quick story about my first job out of college, which was with a TV station. And back then, I thought that fraud was just kind of something my grandparents experienced. And I thought it wouldn't happen to me because I grew up on a phone and a laptop, and shoot, I didn't have any money to begin with, so what was I going to lose? I felt like somehow I knew better, so I was safe. So at this TV station, I would write stories every single week about scam victims who lost life-changing sums of money. I would talk to these folks, I would document their stories, and one day, I get this phone call on my drive to work, and the caller ID says Washington, D.C., Internal Revenue Service. So I answered. And this guy with a thick accent said, "Mr. Planos," and I said, "That's me." And he said, "Josh Planos of Omaha, Nebraska, who works for KETV, graduated from UNL." And I said, "Wow, that's a lot of information, but yes." And he told me that his name was IRS Agent Williams, and he read off this badge number, and he informed me that I had inaccurately filed my taxes the previous year. And after checking out my bank account, he estimated that I owed about $5,000 to correct the situation. See, Agent Williams told me they had been trying to get a hold of me for months. So if I did not agree in the moment, he'd have no choice but to alert Omaha police, who would arrest me for tax evasion. So I had to make a decision. If I hung up, I'd be arrested. Didn't have time to check what I had filed because I was driving. And the moment just kind of accelerated on me to the point where I was no longer thinking clearly. Ultimately, I chose to hang up the phone. But it was really close. I had thought about providing my credit card information, my bank account information to this person. I had thought about how I'd have to explain to my parents that I had been arrested for something so preventable. I thought about a lot of different choices in the moment. Let's recap them. This man was able to spoof the caller ID, identify my name, my age, my location, my employer, my alma mater. He called himself an IRS agent. He read off a badge number, said he could access my bank account. Felt very real in the moment. And as someone who worked for the news, who should have had every reason to know immediately that this was a scam, I still came about as close as you possibly can to providing my identity to this complete stranger. So I did not know better. I was not safe from scams. For every one effort that is laughable and obviously a scam, there is one capable of changing someone's life. And they're not going to call you when you expect them to. They're not going to give you the time to make the best decision for you and your loved ones. They're not going to discriminate based on age, sex, gender, socioeconomic standing. So let's set the table for our scam prevention discussion today. This is your money. This is your personal information. This is what scammers are after. Nothing more, nothing less. They don't want to be your friend or to discuss your car's extended warranty. They just want your money, they want your personal information, and then they want to walk away. Why are they so successful at doing this? Well, we don't call them con artists for nothing, right? They're pretty good at it. Their art is refined over thousands of repetitions, thousands of scenarios, technology, research. They present us with a reality that does not exist. All of us certainly have our biases and predispositions, but I would also argue that some of this damage is the result of a basic instinct. I believe we all have this instinct to a degree. And trust, unfortunately, can obscure our understanding of trickery, of the hoax. Intense emotions compromise our ability to think rationally, so it's no surprise that these operations are definitely not subtle. Do you remember that IRS agent story? One thing he repeated to me was that he was not trying to scare me. He was trying to take care of my problems. He could handle the situation for me. He was the equivalent of the bank representative calling to tell me that suspicious activity had popped up on my account, and he alone could handle it for me. See, more broadly nowadays, the most sophisticated scammers pretend to be the ones helping. They pretend to be the ones who have your safety in mind, the ones you can trust. 50 years ago, unfortunately, you had to be in the same room with them to get hustled. And nowadays, you can be half a world away, because most scams nowadays look like this. And like this. And like this. This is an IRS scam operation based out of India, one that targeted people just like me. This place was raided in 2015, shortly after I received that phone call. Unfortunately, nobody was arrested because the employees were tipped off that a raid was going to happen, so they didn't show up to work that day. That is pretty common, and it unfortunately speaks to how difficult it is to arrest someone in a country of origin that doesn't feel like policing it and involves multiple jurisdictions. But some of these scammers could be your neighbor. Like this woman was arrested in Grand Island, Nebraska. And these guys were arrested in Omaha. And all of the people responsible for these headlines had one thing in common: Nebraska. This is just a list of headlines from the past 12 months that I could find and fit on a slide. And do you remember what we said about fraud in this country? How the majority is never reported? Let's try out cute livestock. All right, that didn't work. If the ultimate goal for every scam is to access someone's identity and wallet, it would follow that bank-related scams would be common. And at the BBB, we've seen a considerable uptick in these reports since the pandemic. It's certainly been a tumultuous year for banks, particularly independent and regional ones. There's been a lot of news coverage about failures, security defenses, global banking crisis. Guess who that benefits? This guy. You've got concerns about your finances? Great. You're confused about your current and future financial outlook? Even better. The uptick, unfortunately, was inevitable because of the transitions that we've all experienced. Do you remember when you actually had to walk into a bank to deposit a check or to open an account? No longer. You can move your entire life savings to a different bank in less than 5 minutes. Don't have an account? No problem. It's never been easier in all of human history to enroll in a new bank account from the comfort of your own home. A lot of folks are doing that too. Insider intelligence reported that 13.1 million new bank accounts were opened in the US in 2022 by digital channels. Why? Look how comfortable that is. It's easy, it's convenient. And more than 3 out of every 4 Americans would rather not enter a physical location to move their money. And when the pandemic hit, millions of holdouts got a real crash course on how critical mobile banking is to the modern economy. Nowadays, mobile banking far exceeds branch banking, which of course creates some unfortunate consequences, like this. And this. From phishing to malware, social engineering to data breaches, the attack surface for scammers has expanded. There are more vulnerabilities, there is global reach, there are more cyber criminal tools today than ever before, some of which we do not have safeguards for. Some bank transfers or transactions involving payment cards took at least a day to clear. But that's no longer an issue either, because payment apps take seconds. There are dozens of peer-to-peer payment methods that are not only connected, but in some cases embedded within our very own banking apps. They make money transfers free, fast, and convenient. Now, these modes of payment are ubiquitous on college campuses and also scam circles, because in many cases, those transactions are irrevocable. You physically initiated the transaction. You authorized the purchase, so the liability is yours. No matter if you were scammed, or you inadvertently input the wrong phone number, or you simply made a mistake. Now, some of these platforms are attempting to add protections for users, but not nearly enough, and not nearly quick enough. Let's dive into what we're seeing at the BBB. We cover reports across North America to give you a sense of what to protect yourself and your loved ones from. We couldn't do our job without our scam tracker tool. This is completely free. It's bbb.org/scam tracker. And it's a really helpful way to see what scams have been reported in your area, what to be on the lookout for. There's all sorts of drill down menus. We bucket scams by type, so I believe there are about 25 of those. But it's a fantastic tool that we could not do our work without. If you go to the site, you can also report your scam experience and be kept completely anonymous if you so choose. It's a very simple process. So the findings that we're discussing today are found in our 2022 Scam Tracker Risk Report. That's our annual snapshot of the activity that we've monitored. The median dollar loss reported in the more than 40,000 scams we monitored last year was $171. Now that means different things to different people. But nobody has budgeted for a loss of $171 when they try to buy something online, or when they answer a phone call, or when they receive a text message. Here are the 6 most reported means of contact for those who experienced a monetary loss. Now, the only thing that changes if you filter by age demographic for those over the age of 65 is that social media goes way down and text message goes way up. Everything else is consistent. There are a lot of misconceptions about scams and fraud, and today I'd like to unpack 2 of them. What age group is the most likely to lose the most money to a scam on average?
How is that?
No, younger.
Under.
Over.
40 and under.
Younger.
Young people, defined as those between the ages of 18 and 24.
Wow.
On average, these folks lost $220 to scams in 2022. Those over the age of 65, for comparison, were in second place. They lost $190. But what's more disturbing is that the younger generation is also the least likely to report a scam. It is not lost on me that today is the elder justice training. But part of today is also about sharing the information you learn to those who it most impacts. Teenagers and new adults are not immune to scams and to fraud. They're right in the crosshairs. And generally speaking, we have a difficult time getting those folks to reach out when they experience something. So please, if you know someone in this demographic, share this information with someone who can benefit from it. Let's talk about another misconception. Which age group do you think is the least susceptible to losing money in a scam? So this is the percentage of consumers who reported losing money when they were exposed to a scam. Any guesses? This is the older generation, those over the age of 65. Here is how that exposure and susceptibility look by age. This is actually a really encouraging sign for seniors. These numbers have improved substantially over the years, and they are far less susceptible than they were just 2 years ago. So, in my estimation, the public education, which is our very best protection in this arena, is actually working. If we drill down on some of the bank-related scam trends we have monitored, here are the 2 most frequent reports. How many of you have received a text message like this? Some suspicious activity has been found in your account. I have, just yesterday. And it's natural to want to immediately put the situation to bed, get to the bottom of it. Most credit cards and bank accounts these days come with basic fraud protection and transaction flagging services. But this is not a real support message. This is a scam.
How do you tell?
Good question. Its goal is to establish that the phone number is active. And it does not end with the message. From there, a scammer will call you to follow up, and the number in the caller ID will appear to be from your bank or from this bank. And when you answer that call, because you certainly will after going this far, you'll be told by a bank representative that you need to send money to yourself using those digital payment systems we talked about so that the charge will stop. You'll be asked to verify the code that connects your bank to that payment method, which again is embedded within the payment method. And now the scammer has access to both. Ultimately, what we've found and heard from the folks who report this experience to us is that they stop thinking about why this is happening and they start following orders. It's like a trance. And it's a trance that scammers work really hard at perfecting. In another common version, you receive a text or email from someone pretending to be your bank, and you're asked if you signed up for a new account with a competing bank. If not, please call this number. And you're going to be asked to repeat back banking information, like your account number, your PIN, your social security number, to verify your identity. In some cases, they might already know your account number, which of course makes it a lot more believable, a lot more likely that you will trust them. Again, most of these scams are designed under the guise of help. They are designed to mirror what type of communication folks actually receive from banks, and thus are more likely to trick you. Here is where we are most concerned. Remember those fake images from earlier? Well, before I got in the car today, I asked ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence model that can mimic human language, to create a scam for me. Thankfully, it said it wouldn't. But then, I asked it about what scam tactics are most effective in 2023, about what pulls at the heartstrings and gets consumers to act. And it told me that bank-related scams and tactics were incredibly effective. And then it laid out completely how to facilitate one. So I asked if there were any concerns about that answer in the context of what my initial query was, build me a scam. And it said, while discussing scam tactics, it is important to strike a balance between informing people about the risks and avoiding the promotion or endorsement of unethical or harmful activities. My worry is that that balance has not been found. And I worry that the next person who gets a phone call from someone claiming to be the IRS will stand even less of a chance than I did. And that this tool, which I believe has refined the scams monitored at the local level, will be used like a weapon rather than a resource. One of the tried and true methods of detecting scams for decades has been to comb through unsolicited communication for grammatical errors and simple mix-ups. Well, what happens when those errors are smoothed out until the text mirrors the exact language you would find in authentic communication with a bank, with a government, with an organization? How do you detect that? I said earlier that today's workshop would not be terribly productive without anything actionable. So let's talk about action. Education is the single most important variable we can move the needle on, and I believe that this information, however general, will help you those you love, those you care for, to avoid the majority of what is reported to us. Step 1, add a healthy amount of skepticism to your diet, particularly when you receive unsolicited communication. Nearly every scam we monitor these days began with an out-of-the-blue phone call, a text, or an email. Nearly every one. One way you can avoid that unsolicited communication is by not picking up the phone for a number you do not know. Sounds a little antisocial, but hear me out. If it is an important message, what is the caller going to do? Leave a message. Unfortunately, we have no way of knowing if the caller ID is accurate. It is unlikely that a scammer will call you and your caller ID will identify someone you know with their full name. That usually happens after you pick up the phone. But it is not unlikely that a scammer will influence the city, the state, and the area code to get you to pick up the phone. And unfortunately right now, we stand to lose too much to answer calls willingly. So don't. I've also written down the National Do Not Call Registry line and website. This is a good place to start to ensure your line is protected. Scammers don't really care about National Do Not Call Registry lines, but this will at least weed out the marketing folks who are trying to get a hold of you for some other reason. But this is a really fantastic way to at least ensure that you are listed on one of these directories. Next tip, never send money to someone you have not met face to face. If it involves a bank, ask to meet them in person at the nearest branch. If it involves a utility service, ask them to come to you or for you to come to them. Those are the terms and conditions. It's not too much to ask. With AI, they can mimic the exact language that would be used in a utility call, so you really have no idea who you are talking to on the other end. So if you can conduct that business in person, you're going to be a lot better off. Next tip, avoid clicking on links or attachments. You ever get one of those text messages that tell you you've got a shipment from Amazon that's going to be delivered in an hour, or you can track something from USPS from home? It's nice in theory, right? Do you know you have to legally opt in to receive those kinds of communications from either marketing or support? I buy things from Amazon. I have never opted in to SMS messaging, so I know every time I get a message that it is a scam. It is not worth clicking on the link. With malware, that download starts instantly, so there are unfortunately no takebacks in the digital age. Phishing messages will follow a pattern. They'll urge you to click on a link, to share information, to call a phone number, to download an attachment. Most often, you're taken to an unsecured site with a form fill where you're asked to input personal and payment information. Again, what all scammers are chasing. My advice is if something sounds suspicious, you call the company directly from its official number on its official website to confirm. If you're that concerned about tracking a package, ask them to drop it at one of the many drop boxes around town. If you're nervous about it coming to your front door while you're at work, you can ensure that it is being dropped at a safe location, so you don't need to be tracking it. It's a lot easier than playing cleanup duty after the fact. Next tip, avoid sharing personally identifiable information. If somebody asks for your banking and credit card information, your birthday, your social security number, ask yourself why. Why do they need that? There are very few situations in which they would. For most subscriptions these days, a name and an email will suffice. So if they're asking for more, especially information that it's imperative you keep under wraps, ask yourself why, and gauge whether or not you think it's worth it. Think of this like your digital fingerprint. You want to protect that, right? It's not just giving up that information willingly. We hear from folks who have uploaded photos of their living room on social media with tax return information clearly laid out on the counter. We've heard from folks who chose not to shred sensitive documents and it was lifted from their trash and used to open credit card accounts. We've heard from folks who provided their social security number to sign up for what they thought was a free subscription. This is information you have to keep safe. For those of us who pay for products and services online, double check that URL before you provide any payment information. If it begins with HTTP and not HTTPS, the site is not secure. Here's what that looks like. Secure sites begin with HTTPS. They have that lock symbol next to it. It's just a one-letter difference. It is a very, very large one. The websites for AARP, for BBB, for DHHS, they all start with HTTPS, as do millions of others. However, millions more do not. What that one-letter difference indicates is that HTTPS sites are using encryption technology to protect information as it is being sent between client and server. So it's very difficult for that account to ever be compromised if you're on an HTTPS website. It's a very nice safety net to have in your back pocket. So if the site is not HTTPS, do not provide your payment information to them. Next tip, embrace the slowdown. Scammers will thrive when the situation accelerates, when there's reason to act immediately. They want to push you to make a decision before you think things through. Sometimes they'll advise you to not contact anyone and to just trust them. Other times they'll dangle that lucrative offer, but only if you act now. How many of us have heard that? High-pressure sales tactics are a hallmark of scams. So embrace the slowdown. And yes, that means putting guardrails in place that will protect you even if they cost you some of your time. Multi-factor authentication is now considered best practice for all accounts. It's not just banks. So this is where you're required to input your password and then a code is sent to another device to authenticate it. This protects you even if your password is compromised. Enable this if possible. Yes, it will add time. It will be frustrating, but it will also take a lot less time than cleaning up an identity theft situation. Most accounts offer this. Let's quickly recap. Add skepticism, remove calls from strangers, sharing of personally identifiable information, and the clicking of links of attachments. Only frequent HTTPS websites. I'm sure a smarter man would have developed a mnemonic device to remember. I am not that man, unfortunately. I do want to note, though, that we have an entire landing page on bbb.org dedicated to protecting seniors. We have specific information on how to spot the scams targeting older adults, bank fraud and non, information on how to report, on how to give to charity with confidence, on warning signs and tips for caregivers, on how to choose the right assisted living facility. I would encourage you all to check that out. Again, completely free online. The BBB has been around for more than a century, since 1912, and yet we have never monitored more scam-related activity than we have in the past 3 years. There are billions of reasons for that. But there is a primary obstacle that continues to get in our way. We stay silent when we see things or hear about things. We think there's some sort of threshold that needs to be met for our story to matter, for TV stations to get the story, for police to investigate. It takes a lot of courage to speak up. But perhaps we would be more likely to do so if we acknowledged that staying silent only ever helps the perpetrator. If we acknowledge that it does the exact opposite of protecting the community. I want to put us all back in my car in 2015. It's going to be a tight squeeze. 2015, I get the phone call from the IRS, allegedly. What did I do? I answered a call for a number I did not know. I nearly provided personally identifiable and bank account information to a stranger. I allowed the moment to accelerate on me. I did not follow any of the advice that we discussed today. And that call changed my life, even though I didn't lose a single dollar. But what is most frustrating is that I did not report it. And I think about that a lot. And I will always regret it. This is what trust is about. All of us, together. The digital age has revolutionized so many areas of our lives. It moves so quickly, sometimes it feels like we're never going to keep up. But if our principles, which largely have been the same for decades, are sound, if we can agree, at the very least, to call out things when we see them, to say that we do not accept that billions of dollars are lost to fraud every single year, then I think we can make a difference. I think about this proverb a lot. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I want us to go far. I think you do too. You know who else wants a safer world?
Oh.
These guys. With that in mind, do I have time for questions?
We do, we have a little time. So wondering, anyone in the studio have a question for Josh?
You said call a number, what number would that be? The number that
For,
reporting?
so there, if you go to bbb.org/scam tracker, it's listed there. You can also fill it in online. But yeah, the number will be listed on the landing page.
Is that similar to the website that AARP has for scam trackers?
I would I'm not
Maybe
entirely
not.
sure. I'm
Okay.
sure that there is some commonality, some overlap, but I couldn't say definitively
Okay.
what the differences are there.
But it's good to know about both,
Absolutely.
about AARP and then the Better Business Bureau.
This is my lack of knowledge, but
Sure.
what about when you get phone calls that ask for, like, your adult children? Where do they get that information?
So with the, backtrack to the IRS story. I found that guy following me on Instagram a couple months later. Didn't mean he got arrested, but that's where the information was pulled from. It was from my social media accounts. So a lot of that information is hijacked from places online that your name is listed, right? Whether it's, housing information or it's, there's obituaries. There's all sorts of information available online where they can triangulate, this person is related to this person, here's how they might be connected. But obviously that's a very important nugget for them to have in their back pocket, is knowing that there's someone that you know, that you care about. And really, unfortunately, there's no way to prevent them from finding that out when that information is so widely available online.
Well, for instance, I work with the public health department and teach a class on fall prevention and safety, and that has come up where, how do they get my daughter I'm 80 and my daughter's 60, how did they ask something about my daughter, how do they get that information? That's one of the big questions that
Telephone
comes
numbers.
in, yeah.
If you look up your own telephone number, it will ask, it will show like a chart, might be related to da 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 da.
Oh,
And where you might have lived, or
Where you
who
might have
lived with you?
lived, you know.
Ah, okay,
Don't you think part of the problem is we post it ourselves
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
on Facebook and Instagram?
We do.
I mean, I know when my neighbors have a margarita, some things, there's so much information out there. And we do that to ourselves.
One thing that's been top of mind for the past 3 weeks for us has been, how do you tell someone to be delicate about posting back to school photos?
Yeah.
It's not exactly a PR dream to try to sell that message to a parent, and yet if you know someone's age, that's very helpful information if you're looking for leverage and you're on the other end of the call. Yeah, all of that information can be weaponized, unfortunately. Even with the most secure privacy settings on those accounts, they are still global accounts.
My identity was stolen, and I just found this out through the IRS, and they told me that they will never call me or send an email or anything like that, but they will always send a letter. But my question is, somebody has my social security number and my name. How do I find out how they got that?
Unfortunately, this industry is ripe with trails that lead to dead ends, that lead to inconclusive outcomes. Ideally, it's someone who is found to have targeted others and they're taken down in that way, but seldom does someone knock on your front door and say, I know who found out your information, or I know who's been targeting you all this time.
Some of these cybersecurity breaches steal that information and it's on the dark web.
Yeah, and all those little credit card applications that you get in your junk mail?
Shred them.
Shred them. Like if you aren't going to apply for it, shred it. Because it is so easy for someone to look up your information, plug it in, and hey, there's an account out there and they're having fun. And you get to pay for it. So,
You know, and I think with the shredding, and I know AARP used to offer some shredding opportunities. Is that, Gina, still taking place?
Yes, with COVID, of course, there was a shift in all of that, and we're redesigning how we do all of those.
Okay.
But yes, and there are many, banks do them.
Thanks to
Of course,
them?
Better Business Bureau, there's lots of opportunities, and definitely that's always the key, is to take them to a shredding event where it's secured.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
I had a question. How do you protect the two-factor identification? Because I happened to see a news article where a lady got this from her bank, and they sent, okay, we're gonna send you a two-factor identification, but what it was is they were sending it to her, and she was reading it off to the scammer, who was then getting into her account.
Oh,
How do you protect, is there a way to protect that?
So they would never call you unless, you know, you enable the phone message versus text.
So if anybody calls and wants that, just don't give it to them.
I think we've seen a lot fewer reports from text message, dual factor, or text to email versus text to phone.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, anytime, because the peer-to-peer payment methods, right, are embedded within the bank app, if you can have access to both, because not all of your money will be stored in these peer-to-peer payment methods.
Right.
You're able to access a lot more. But yeah, anytime you can enable the text message or email is gonna be better off. But I've not heard of a lot of reports of folks having their dual factor authentication hacked.
Okay.
Do you work with OPD then on the fraud division?
Yeah, so essentially when we get reports, our lead investigator will pass them along to the police department in question. Would like to do a lot more. We have a lot of conversations going on about like, how can we team up on newsletters and ways in which we can better support one another. But for the most part, that's a huge hurdle to clear in this community. Is the ARP's got a place you can report, BVP's got a place you can report, FBI. How do I have to report to 70 different outfits? I really feel like we're failing a lot in general on sharing that information. But as far as it pertains to the various police departments, we pass along that information readily.
I think we have one more question.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know the Attorney General's office in the past has recommended, like if you have your credit report, like if you access it, you can put like a freeze or whatever you call it on there. So that way if somebody's trying to take out loans or trying to take out credit cards,
That's a good point.
they shouldn't be able to without you being notified it's happening. So it's just kind of an extra layer of protection.
That's a great point.
Thank you. All right then. Josh, this is a terrific presentation. Thank you very
you all.
much. Let's give it up for Josh. Josh, this is wonderful, wonderful information, and hopefully future trainings will include additional information.
Absolutely.
Because clearly this issue is not going away.
Unfortunately.
It's not going away.
Thank you for having
Josh, thank you again.